Hello, hello. Welcome to another Soul Wisdom Exchange. I'm here today with Alina Fridman, and we're going to have a fantastic conversation. I know it. So, I'm Regina Curtis. I am the owner and creator of At Maytree, and I am the host of this experience. So, I am a soul wisdom mentor, an intuitive artist, and an art channel. And I love having conversations with other soul wisdom explorers. So, Alina, tell us a little bit about yourself, please.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here. My name is Alina Fridman, as you mentioned, and I am the founder of Ladies Take the Lead, which is a community-driven platform for women entrepreneurs. I created this community about a few years ago after my experiences in the event industry. And I wanted a place for women to connect and leverage their collective energy into business opportunities. So that's what Ladies Take the Lead is. It's evolved since then. It's become a more of a lifestyle, social, business platform where we talk about everything because as my tagline goes, being an entrepreneur isn't a job, it's a lifestyle. So
Absolutely.
that is what Ladies Take the Lead is. I also run Finding Fabulous Media, which is a branding media company as well. And they kind of go hand in hand together. So it works out beautifully.
Yeah, absolutely. And I definitely have experience with Ladies Take the Lead. I don't haven't utilized your gifts yet in the marketing world, but or PR, I guess it would be it's a lot of things, but with Finding Fabulous Media. um, but yeah, I'm so excited to have you here today. And what I'd love to talk with you about is really what is your soul wisdom? How does your soul wisdom come in and how do you use that? So let's start with just identifying what are some of your soul wisdom languages?
That's an interesting question, and I've been, and I knew that I would be asked that, and I'm trying to figure that out myself as I go along. What is it? Is it intuition? Is it experience? I think it's a whole culmination of so many different things that bring me to where I am today, from experience, from intuition, from just gut feeling, from education. It all kind of like leads to funnels through to one particular point, and here we are today.
Yeah, definitely. I love that. And I love that you're still exploring it because you know what? We all are still exploring
Mhm.
it. And I really believe that we have we're at different, let's say, junctures with our soul wisdom languages as far as the actual verbiage we use for it, or maybe our level of understanding. And even though, like, I'm kind of laughing a little bit. And I think that Angela is one of the guests that's on right now. We were just talking about layers, and several other of my, the clients that I work with and even friends, we've been talking about this layering of things. And it's so true. And I think it's so poignant right now, especially that we are uncovering these layers of our understanding of our own selves, of our lives, of our experiences, of our relationships, and how we're even in those relationships. So I don't know, how does that sit with you? What does that bring up?
No, it is true. It is layer. I feel like, sometimes, I take that analogy of you're like an onion and you peel the layers to get to the core. You're probably going to cry on the journey.
I do.
It's just there's so many layers to us, and that builds upon from experience, from life, that the paths that we've taken. So absolutely, and as we grow older, there are more layers to us. So I've noticed that as I am growing older.
So the infinite onion, I think, though,
I
too, right?
know.
It's like it doesn't end. It just keeps
It
keeps
keeps on going
layering.
and going. Exactly. It's all about layering.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. You know, so I love that image too of layering in a different way. I think of even with my artwork my intuitive artwork that I do, there are many layers to it. So, I start with a particular structure and I add to that. And then, I bring in water, and that's emotional, and it kind of changes some things. And then there's another layer that comes on top of that, which is transparent. And then there's another layer that's really kind of like embellishing. And I think that that's really also very reflective of how we have a relationship with ourselves, of,
Mhm.
like learning. I think identity kind of is, what is the structure? Where do I start with that? And then once you kind of have a feeling, a sense of that, it's like, okay, now my emotions come in and they kind of mess everything up a little bit. But then they add this layer of
Right.
beauty, and then you come back into it and you use a tool, you find another thing and you learn a little more, right? And so you keep doing that process over and over.
No, absolutely. And also you can take, you have your foundation where you start, and then you build upon that. And I think you can choose to build whatever you want. It's the materials that you choose to build with that's going to set you apart.
Mhm.
So that's what I think as well.
Yeah, definitely. So, okay, so you mentioned intuition, and you also mentioned a gut feeling, right?
Mhm.
Do you see those as separate things? Do you see them as related? Like, how do you experience that?
I think that intuition and gut feeling coincide together. It's also from experience. I
Mhm.
feel that you get your intuition because it has to come from somewhere. You have to be exposed to something in order to react to it.
Mhm.
So, I think that intuition comes from the, experiences as you grow, older. Again, here we go with older. But as you evolve and develop it, I guess you feel it more than you would say at an earlier stage in life. Where some people, you know what, they're really great at identifying that intuition right away. So
Mhm.
for me personally, it's kind of like um, it's a culmination of experiences that I get to feel that intuition, and it's always kind of like, oh, I've been there before. What did I do in that situation? How did I handle it? And it's
Mhm.
always, I see a pattern.
Yes.
Life is kind of like a pattern. We all are creatures of habit. We have patterns. And I've noticed it in my career with, funny enough, event planning with my
Mhm.
clients. I was able to read my clients so well because it's what I've learned. We're all the same, we just express ourselves differently. And with my clients in the beginning, I was new at event production and everything, and I was learning from them. But then I got comfortable, and the experiences that I've had through the process, I could read my clients right away, and I could
Mhm.
anticipate their next move because it all fell into this pattern. So
Yeah.
that's also where that intuition comes from. It comes from learning those patterns and recalling them.
Yeah. I
Hmm.
love that example that you used too, because I would say that that is you really knowing and being confident in your own
Hmm.
soul wisdom, in your ways of receiving, even though what may have felt like you were doing in that moment is kind of anticipating, okay, this is what they need, and it being
Hmm.
about them.
Hmm.
Really, that's a celebration of you very clearly communicating with your own soul wisdom and your ways of receiving, to say, this is received, and now I clearly know how to express that, right?
Hmm.
And what happens when you're in that rhythm with yourself is you do read the language of someone else, you express it in a way that they receive harmoniously, and it's this really beautiful cycle of giving and receiving in a way that is authentic to you and authentic to them. And then that becomes a harmonious relationship.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then I got burnt out of it because it was just so repetitive as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
It
Well, maybe
became a
you didn't
cycle.
need it anymore.
No, I did not need it anymore. I've done it for 15 years. It became a cycle, and so I wanted to kind of step off and find
Yeah.
a different path. And that's what I did. I was curious and about other things in life besides um, doing the same thing over and over and over. I'm the type of person that I love pattern, but I love to create my own patterns and just
I feel you. Yeah,
so yeah, it just I was good. I learned what I needed to learn and I just moved on to something else.
absolutely. And I think that that's also a soul wisdom language right there. Is that's you being in tune with your way of being, right? So like I said, your authentic ways of knowing, but also your authentic ways of being. And when you know that this is complete and it's time for you to move on, great. Because if you stay in that, you know what happens if you stay in a pattern when it's no longer serving you because
Mhm.
you've done the thing, you've mastered the skill, you have gained everything there is to gain. Now, if you continue to stay in that, it then can become toxic, right?
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
that's when you
Absolutely.
hit burnout. That's when you hit boredom. That's when you stop honoring your own voice, your own needs, and you're doing it just because why, right? Because somebody said this is what we do, or
Mhm.
because that was somebody else's way of being, and then that became normalized because of whatever reason we saw it a lot, right? So,
Right.
and for some people, that is the most nourishing, yummy thing to like get into a groove and just like get cozy in there. But as someone who that's not necessarily my way of being, I totally understand that that can also be like, it feels really good at first. And then all of a sudden it's like trapping you, right?
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the burnout was there, absolutely. And I always like to, evolve and do the next thing and the next, and build upon that. And when you've done what you've done, it's kind of for me, I'm not a person that loves being comfortable. I love being uncomfortable and challenging myself. Uh,
Mhm.
the more challenges I get into, the more energy I feel from it. I love
Mhm.
that, I love a challenge. That's what it is for me. And I feel that after 15 years of doing what I've done, I've conquered those challenges and it was time to move on to something else. But I've taken what I've had there, which was, I mean, an amazing educational experience as well, and
Yeah.
taken it on to the next challenge, so to speak.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And so tell us about that challenge. How do you see that incorporating right now in your life?
It's kind of like life happens and either you let life happen or you make life happen, so to
Mhm.
speak. So I literally just with my production company, I shut it down and went for another experience. I started producing my own events
Mhm.
instead of producing events for people. I started with wedding shows because that's what I knew from experience. I knew how to produce events. I had the contacts and everything. And so I started that. And then I went into what else can I do? What else can I do? And it built upon this and it led me to a community platform for women where
Mhm.
women can come together and network. Most of my clients, 99% of them were women planning their either weddings or,
Mhm.
special events or things like that. So it just came naturally that that's kind of the route that I would go into. And of course, sign of the times and everything about women, it just felt like that's the trajectory, that's the direction that I am going into. And I've been doing this now for a couple of years along with my branding company, media company for event-based businesses, which
Mhm.
I had through my wedding shows. But with the pandemic, that was a total game changer because
Yes.
that shut down, the event industry completely shut down. That business I had to put on pause and really build upon this business. So I went into it without a safety net and I
Mhm.
just went for it. I mean, you know,
Was that a gut feeling? Did you have that gut feeling of like, this is the place to go?
it was just, that's the direction it felt right. Events weren't happening. Couldn't do anything with my event media company. So that paused. And I had events planned for Ladies Take the Lead, which had to be canceled. And so everything was going virtual online. And I figured, okay, if I'm going to continue this, I have to step from behind the scenes, which I've been used to doing for over 15 years, and step in front, go on Instagram Live and get social. And that was very challenging for me because, of course, as creatures of habits, we're used to being behind, doing our thing. I'm used to being behind the scene, shining the spotlight on
especially with weddings or bar mitzvahs or any of that kind of event. It's not about you, even though you're the puppet master, right? Making everything happen behind the scenes, making all the magic happen. But no one is there to celebrate you or give you, like that comes as in gratitude and things like that. But
it does. And I've had great clients and I've had clients that made their thank you speeches and included me into it. And that was like, very heartfelt. But no, you are, it's really one of those, businesses where you put yourself out there, you put all your energy into creating somebody's moment for somebody else.
Yes.
And then you're in the background.
Yeah. It's like you're doing a better job when no one knows you're there, right?
It's true. And you mentioned puppet master, and I love that term because I felt that way. I was leading everything. I mean, I've done corporate events and social events and everything else with that, but I was kind of like, from the Wizard of Oz, the wizard behind the curtain, and it felt great. That was where I was happy. I didn't need to be in the spotlight. I was great maneuvering things and being that puppet master, creating that experience for others, because that was my kind of natural high, creating a moment. And then, at one point it just became so like, I became desensitized, I believe. And when you lose that passion with any entrepreneur, if you lose that passion, then it's time to, jump ship. It's time to do something else, because as entrepreneurs, we're doing something because we have the passion for it. We're not doing it for a paycheck, because God knows we're not going to see that paycheck for a long time. As entrepreneurs, as we start off, we're doing it because for a cause, for a reason. And to better our lives, not to go to the 9-to-5 grind, but to do something to leave a significant statement. And so there's a passion that's involved in it.
Well, I think a lot of times as an entrepreneur, we're trying to solve a problem in our own life. And then that becomes the magic that we get really good at, or the medicine that we learn how, right? Like I say a lot of times, I'm like, we have to take our own medicine before we can share it with others. And we have to learn how to use it. And once we have that realization, suddenly it's like, I think there's this moment that you hit as an entrepreneur where you're like, that's it. I have the recipe for the secret sauce. And then you want to share it with everyone, because it's like, oh my gosh, I cracked the code. Here it is. We can do this. And then it's like you can't even get it out fast enough, right? Like where you're like, how do I make this happen in the physical form? Because it's so clear to you. But then as you kind of start doing these things, like going through the process of building your business, and I mean, there's a lot of structures and form that has to come in and do that. And I think that's the point where a lot of entrepreneurs kind of get pulled out of their zone of genius, their soul wisdom, right? Like they get kind of lost in those building blocks, and that's where the passion can die down. So it's like, how do you continue to stay connected with that, so that as you build it, you really are building it authentically from that place?
No, absolutely. And yeah, it becomes overwhelming too when you are an entrepreneur. I've been in business for over now 16, 17 years for myself.
Hmm.
Late 20s, I worked in I had a corporate job when I started my first corporate job. And I'll never forget, I had our regional sales manager come in celebrating 25 years in the company. And I was in my 20s. And I looked at that, long time that she spent in one place.
Hmm.
And my life just flashed in front of my eyes.
Yep.
Looking at my life within that company, and it was a good company, nothing, I don't have any qualms with it, but I just didn't see myself there. I didn't see myself doing that whole routine
Mhm.
every morning, going to the office, doing the same thing over and over. Sure, you start at one position and you grow, but there was no passion. It
Mhm.
was a job. And I then reevaluated my life and thought, not for me. I don't
Yeah.
think that I like authority that much or hovering. What
Are we the same person? Because I feel like this feels so familiar. But like, but also that is, that's a really important moment. And this is why I love having these conversations, because those moments we can look back on and go, this was a life-changing moment, right?
Mhm,
In that moment when you were 20, whatever, like I think you knew that this was an important moment, and the reason
mhm,
you realize you can remember it now is because it was, right? It was a monumental moment. But in the span of that, let's say, time frame, right, it
mhm,
was an instant in a much larger container that was actually, this is going to sound really confusing, but it was actually really much smaller, right? Like you're looking at it now from a distance, but in that moment
mhm,
it was like it was just a decision you made in your
mhm.
day, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. I looked at it and I said, not gonna happen. And I just started making my escape plan,
Yeah.
so to speak, and I planned it out. And I told my coworkers about it. I had one friend that was, a really great friend in the office, and I was just like planning. It's kind of like I was in jail, planning
Yeah.
my escape route out of it because I just didn't want to be tied down. I didn't want to be tied down to this routine.
Hmm.
I didn't like it's a pattern and it's over and over and over. I want to experience and I want to learn as much as possible, that I can as long as I
Hmm.
am here. I want to
Yeah.
experience everything. And sometimes, life changes that for you. You get bogged down, you get into routine and you don't. And then that was a moment for me where I just said, not going to happen. And I
Hmm.
went for it. The same moment, there's like, you look at your timeline in life and it's like, oh, okay. Again, with me, even with patterns, I tend to see that I jump ship when I'm not happy, when it's not
Yeah.
working out anymore. I'm not afraid to change. I'm not afraid of change. That's the
Yeah.
thing. It's a little bit rough, but I'm not afraid to go, you know what? I'm going to try something new. We're here, only for a moment, one
Yeah.
step at a time. So why sit there and do the same thing over and over and over again? Experience life.
Right. And that I think is just a different thing for each person.
Yeah.
Angela says escape plan. I love that. Yeah. It's a great way of saying it. And it feels that way. Sometimes it's like, I have to get out of here because, and it's not necessarily about the place. It's not necessarily about the people. It's probably not. I mean,
Yeah.
there might be some people, there might be some things about the place. I mean, maybe, but it's really about the fact that it's no longer serving you, that
Mhm.
you're no longer, it doesn't fit you anymore. And I like to use this example of jeans. I gave up wearing jeans a long time ago. Like
Yeah.
they're not comfortable. Like, I'm
Mhm.
sorry, all the people who make jeans, but like you can try and try and try and try to make jeans that fit my body. And it doesn't even matter what my weight is, what I'm doing. Like, I have never found a pair of jeans that I've put on my body and thought, yeah, I want to wear this all day. And I tried for years and judged myself and thought, I can't find the right, I can't fit into these jeans, or these jeans aren't the right fit. But when I realized that it's that environment, it's the whole package is not me. It's not how I'm comfortable. It's not the thing that I need to feel comfortable, to move around in, to be, to be authentically me. And I think that's also the case with careers. It's the case with relationships. It's the case with some of our personality traits. Like, sometimes something it fits really good, and you're going along and you're like, I haven't worn them in years either. We're going to reveal here a lot of people are not wearing jeans. And I think after the pandemic, we're also going to reveal that women are no longer wearing underwire bras, and stretchy pants with elastic waists are probably the thing of the future. But total side note. But like, it's not about, that's not who you are, right? That's not your identity. It may be a costume that you wear. It may be a costume that you put on, or maybe an outfit that may be your favorite thing in the moment, right? And I mean outfit, not even just clothes wise, but personality or career or whatever. But then at the end of the day, that's not who you are, right? It's something you wear, it's something you experience, something you try on, but you can also step out of that and put something else on, and that's okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I don't own a pair of jeans. I haven't for a while. Just jeans aren't my thing. They're not my jam. So I decide not to. I like the stretchy pants, especially after 2020.
Yes.
I love that. Underwire, I'm still a fan of. But I kind of like let it go at the end of the day after a Zoom call or anything like that. I do like to get very comfortable.
Exactly. But there's times for it, right? Like, I still own some. I still wear them occasionally, but my go-to most days is not that, because
absolutely.
It's the same thing with, like, sometimes I like to get dressed up. Sometimes I like to, I hardly ever wear makeup, but occasionally, like every once in a while, I'll just be like, why not? That sounds like fun today. It doesn't have to be something that you do every day or don't do every day. And I think it's the same thing with our soul wisdom, right? Like, there are moments when it's appropriate for a certain language to come through, right? Like, I can channel light language. Do I do that in my normal conversations every day? No, because I need to be able to communicate in a way that is received by the other person, and we need to be able to accomplish a certain task, right? Or but then there are times that, even though that's not something that I might consciously be enacting in that moment, I do very much use my ability to channel almost all of the time, right? Like, when I'm having a conversation, most of the time, I used to be that most of the time I would be very much in my analytical brain, and I would be thinking through, okay, this is what I need to say in this moment. And I would be trying to use that to find the right words. And what I found when I was in that place was, I also found a lot of judgment, but from myself, a lot of fear, a lot of, I would say something and then I would get really lost in this place of, was that the right thing? How was it received? Did they think that, what do they think about me? That kind of mindset, right? But now I've learned that one of my strengths is actually to just open the channel and let it flow through. And sometimes I can't even remember what I said, because I'm really just allowing it to come through. And so frequently I have people say to me, how did you know to say that? Like, that's exactly what I needed to hear. Or that's, that's exactly the language that I needed to hear that through. You're so good at choosing your words. And there's a little part of me that laughs and is like, I didn't choose those words.
That's interesting. That's interesting that you say that, because going back to changes and everything, I had to step in front of my brand, so to speak, and be the face of the brand, because it was always ladies take the lead spotlight on, as I did with my clients for their events. Again, with ladies take the lead spotlighting on the women in the community on the platform, which I still do. But I guess in a sense, you had to have a moderator, leader, and kind of, guide people through to kind of see.
Keep moving. And by the way, you do that very well.
Well, thank you so much. But I will tell you that after my 40-something birthday last year, I decided that I was going to go live. Everybody else was doing it. I was curious about it. I don't do reels. I still don't, refuse to. I can't do the, I don't want to do the dancing thing or anything like that. You know what, people who do that, great, more power to you. Just
but it's not you. That's okay.
Not me. And I'm not going to, I'm not going to go for it. If I do reels, it's on my personal page and it's always about my dog. But that's the deal.
Yeah.
I just ended up stepping in front of the camera, so to speak, on Instagram, doing Instagram Live, and I was doing interviews, and I sucked at it, and I felt that I did. My cousin, who is an actor, he's a YouTuber. I called him up. I'm like, oh, hey, advice, please. He's like, you know what? Just practice. Just do it. There, you got to get comfortable with it. And I just challenged myself to do it. And I was literally doing 3 Instagram lives per week, interviews, booking them and everything. And I loved it. It was kind of like after on lockdown for a couple of months already, no makeup, nothing, sitting there trying to figure out life, your next steps. I was able to, okay, I'm putting on my makeup, doing my hair. I called it, I'm hair and makeup time before I go on. It was fun. It became fun. And I forgot that that people were watching, except I had to watch, the comments and everything like that. And it just became that kind of routine feeling for me. And I was judging myself afterwards. Oh, how did I say this? How did I say that? Trying to, where you wear a mask, where you be somebody. And then, you know what? It's kind of like, look, I'm not you. I'm not her. I'm not anybody but me. And I'm just going to come and be myself. This is who I am.
Yeah.
You like me? Awesome. You don't? It's okay. It's all good. We're not, we're not all created equally that we have to like each other. We have our own likes and dislikes. Just look at the actors. Sometimes, you love one actor, I hate them. It's just kind of that thing, everybody has their flavor. And if I'm not their flavor, it's all good. I have a community of people that I am, and they resonate and they vibe with me. And that's really about how you're building your brand. You're not really talking to the masses. You find your niche and you talk to that one person. So I took that into, that consideration. And that's how I was, when I went live, when I did all that, I was talking to that one person. And I show up as myself. I may make a mistake. I may say something that's off, but you know what?
But is it a mistake, or is it just not the way that, maybe it's not the way you intended to say it, right? Or maybe it's not the way that someone else wanted to receive it. And I love this image of having a puzzle piece, right? We're all part of the same puzzle, but we're not all the same piece. We're all each our individual, unique piece of the puzzle. And my piece of the puzzle has a space that is a particular shape that takes something, that receives something, right? And I also have this part of the puzzle where it kind of protrudes out, right? We have our masculine or feminine, however you want to think of it, but also, or ways of receiving or ways of giving. But we also have the people that resonate with us and the people that don't resonate with us. And I think of the people that don't resonate with us are somewhere a couple pieces away in the puzzle. They're still part of the same puzzle. It just means that there may need to be someone or something bridging between us, right? Because
Exactly.
they don't fit together. Just like jeans don't fit for me. Like they're not the thing, right? And so that doesn't mean that there's not value in that. It just means that that's not the thing that is needed for you to fit into the puzzle, or for that person to fit into the puzzle, right? You need to find your own place, and
Mm-hmm.
that place is super important too, because if you try to jam a piece of that puzzle into a place where it doesn't belong, that it doesn't make sense, right? It doesn't fit, it doesn't feel good, it doesn't look,
Right.
it's not pleasant to look at, it's not pleasant for the piece. If you think of it as like if you're trying to jam yourself into some place that doesn't fit you,
Right.
it's not going to be comfortable. And it's not going to be the good kind of uncomfortable where you're like, okay, I've been crammed up in an airplane seat for a while. Now I can stretch out and feel really good, right? Like, or I went to the gym and worked out and now my muscles are sore, but they're that like good kind of sore where it's like, I know I
Mm-hmm.
accomplished something. I may be weird that I think that that's a thing, but
No,
you know
I
what I
feel the
mean?
same way. I feel accomplished when my body hurts after a workout. I feel like, okay, I've done something good today.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that kind of brings me back to what you were talking about in the beginning with intuition of,
Mm-hmm.
you know, when you have these experiences throughout your life that really do confirm your intuition for you,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Absolutely.
those experiences, sometimes I'll have experiences that come up into my awareness that I had when I was 3 years old, 5 years old,
Mm-hmm.
like really a long time ago. But if I hadn't had that experience in that moment, in that way, the thing that I'm receiving right now would not be as powerful as it is,
Absolutely.
right? And
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
and that's layered, right? Like sometimes I might have I have this memory from when I was little, and I can tell you I made art about it in college, and I've written about it, and I've talked about it with my business coach, and I've talked about it with my healers, and I've talked about it in my healing sessions with others, and I've had past life experiences with it. It's not even in a past life, but the first time I did a past life experience for myself, I
Mm-hmm.
went to this place when I was 3 years old, and I was like, that's not a past life, but it's very much tied to a past version of me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I've revisited that. I think I would call that kind of like a pinnacle moment, or
Mm-hmm.
um, really, it's just some kind of like really important memory or moment in our lives that we just keep referring back to
Right.
until we can see it from every perspective where we no longer need it to hold that importance.
Yeah.
So one thing that I really wanted to chat with you about is something that you said in one of the Ladies Take the Lead networking sessions that I attended. And you were talking about how you have an ability to, and you've talked about it a little bit here too with patterns.
Mm-hmm.
You have an ability to see and remember this person goes with that person,
Right.
right? Can you talk about how do you recognize that? How does that
Um,
sit in your body, and how do you experience it?
it just it's so strange. It feels like a sixth sense. Um, you know, when I when you're working with clients and you're creating, because it was my industry, it was a very creative industry. I'm creating an experience, a moment that's frozen in time for them, and they have to experience it. And let's take it to bar mitzvahs, where you have all these kids that you're doing a bar mitzvah for, and you become, you do one, and then everybody goes to that event. And throughout the year with the bar mitzvahs, what happens is every child has a bar mitzvah. Unlike weddings, not everybody's getting married the same year, but every child is. And so when you do, when you produce an event and all those kids are there, the parents look in and they love what they see, they experience. they come to you going, oh, I want you to create this experience for me. And I always felt like events are experiences. That's what
Definitely.
that's my branding for it. I'm creating an experience for you,
Hmm.
with all of the visuals and their sight, smell, taste, everything. So the challenge was to always create an experience for them, but not exactly the same as they've experienced at the previous event, and
Hmm.
something different. And of course, with bar and bat mitzvahs, it's the theme is so important. One year I had like 17 baseball themes, and every single one was different. So
Hmm.
it's really about listening to what the clients want. I've learned that you have to listen. If you don't listen, then you're not receiving information. You're just basing it on whatever other there is. You
Yeah.
have to really sit there and you have to listen. When I hold the networking events, I actually listen and I write things down about
Hmm.
each person so that I can remember it. It's a recall thing for me. And then when you're creating this event, you have to kind of pitch them in a sense. And majority of the time, people don't, a lot of people aren't creative. Or they don't think there are left brain people and there are right brain people, so to speak. It's not that they're not creative. People,
They're
people
not tapped into their
they're not tapped
creativity.
into it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the better way of saying it. So a lot of the times I would have to create this vision for them, but I would always listen to what they wanted the vision to be. And I was the conduit to taking that idea, using my experience, what I know is out there, sourcing everything to produce this experience for them.
Hmm.
That's why they hired me, because they couldn't do it themselves. They had an idea, or as you said, they weren't totally tapped into it. Or, listen, you're doing an event, you have to get your vendors going. So I
Yeah.
was the one that would pull it up. Why I was successful with what I was doing was I always listened. That's
Hmm.
the key, to listen. We tend to just talk, project, but we never, really listen as much as we project, because everybody wants their, moment of me. I want to talk.
Yeah.
That's why I guess with my experience of being behind the scenes, it worked out so well, because I would observe behind the scenes and I was always listening. So
Hmm.
with Ladies Take the Lead, how I do it is I sit there, I listen, and then I'm able to connect the pieces like a puzzle and put people together and make
Hmm.
it work. It's just I'm the type of person that I absorb. I listen to what is going on and then I solve the problems by putting the pieces together. I love puzzles.
Yeah. I
So,
love puzzles too. Um, yeah, it's listening, and then I would say also, I mean, I'm not saying how you do it necessarily, but for me, when I listen, but I allow there to be, for instance, like for me, I receive in through listening, but then it synchronizes, it integrates and assimilates, but then it becomes a visual. And it's almost like
mhm,
I can see where the pattern is, right?
mhm,
Like I can see this is coming in, this is going out. And I have this, there's this visual that I've tried to draw several times because it's so clear to me, but it's beyond three-dimensional, but I would definitely have to, it feels more like something that I could create three-dimensionally. But when I can see how there's a pattern of something happening in someone's internal life, and then
mhm,
that's projecting out in their external life. And I think what you're explaining is almost the opposite of that, where you're receiving in what they're saying, but really what it is that they're projecting. You're tapping into something that's even larger than what they're saying with their words or writing down.
mhm,
You're seeing the vision, and then you're bringing that vision in,
mhm.
and you're able to then kind of channel that through the event, through the vendors, through the theme, through, how it all comes out. So it's like, instead of having they're having an internal experience, they're channeling it out through their words and their body language and their dream and their vision, and you're able to then capture that, pull it back
Mhm.
in, and then bring it out in a way that is really clear.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's an interesting experience working with clients because you're working with them for over a year, and they bring you into their lives. They trust you.
Mhm.
And especially this is why I love corporate events. They're different because there isn't any emotional baggage, and for 15 years, it was a lot of emotional baggage, and that energy that they were projecting, I was taking in.
Mhm.
And, I was taking in the family issues, the divorces, the this, the that. I mean, I have stories to tell, especially I hone in on the bar mitzvah piece of it because such a lucrative business that a lot of planners don't realize. I'm actually writing a book about it.
I'm excited to read this book.
Fiction, all character, every name and everything will be changed. But it's my experience through it because it's such an interesting dynamic that you
Yeah.
have within that point in your life. And I felt like all that energy that they were sending out to me, I was taking in, and the dynamics. It's not just creating an event with picture perfect moments. It's the experience, because there's also a dynamic behind it, the psychology. I mean, I've had clients where the divorced couple pulling me one way, the other way, and this and that. I felt like being pulled into different directions, and those two characters trying to take what they wanted and channeling it into one perfect event for their child. Not even
Right.
for
It's
their
like
no.
these moments in our lives, like weddings and pinnacle birthdays, and
Mhm,
like there's certain markers, mile markers, so to speak,
mhm.
where there's all this pressure. Like I remember having a conversation with a coworker of mine, and she's like, I don't want to get married because there's so much drama around that. And I was
True.
like, this is meant to be, at least my understanding of where this, why you would want to go into something like this is to celebrate and commit in this kind of public way, right? Like you're saying, you're sharing with the world, like I'm committed to this person. I want to celebrate that. I want all my friends and family to be there. But then there's all of this, like everyone's bringing in their own thing with it, and it's those moments tend to be very reflective of, like when I was talking about this, like internal external, like
Mhm.
when you're going to someone else's wedding, you're reflecting on your own relationship.
Exactly.
When you're having an experience for your son or daughter, like I remember my own 16th birthday it was at the moment for me, I felt like it was traumatic because I had so much pressure to
Mhm.
make it be a particular thing, and it was very much not that thing. And then I thought, this isn't how it's supposed to be. This isn't right.
Right.
It's like, and years later, I can look back at it and go, oh, I see the lessons in that, and I understand the gifts of that. Um, but in that moment, I had this very specific understanding of what I thought it was supposed to be.
Right.
And none of that was actually about me or what I wanted or what I truly, liked in that moment. And it wasn't like anyone else was pressuring me to have this experience. In fact, I was very disappointed with it because the people in my life were not treating it the way that I thought it was supposed to be
Right.
treated. And then I realized, like, I didn't even really want any of that. What I wanted was connection. I wanted to spend time with the people that I really loved and have that really quality connection. And that didn't happen. So I think that when all of those things for each person is coming into it, and when you're in the position of creating this monumental event and
Mhm.
trying to pull in all the energies and make this magic happen for everyone who's involved, it's like that's kind of an impossible task because everyone, even if they're saying they want one particular thing, you also are understanding that there's far much more beyond that, right?
No, it definitely is, because if you look at it, if you look at your life, you find, you remember the milestones. You
Mhm.
don't, unfortunately, we don't have memory of every single day of our lives, but we remember the milestones. And we have this perfect picture, perfect vision. Like, the little girls that want to get married and they've been thinking about their wedding day for so long, and there it is. And of course, Murphy's Law, it always happens. And it was always my job to, get Murphy out of that door.
Murphy, you're not invited.
You're not on the guest list. But no, it's just this anticipation of, and it is, all these things come out when you are having that milestone event, a milestone birthday, wedding, bar mitzvah with your kid. It's just so significant. And people, like I said before, why corporate I now love so much more than the social side of it is that people plan with their emotions. They spend money with their emotions. It's like they're gambling on this one day. And they believe that it's this vision, like it has to be perfect. And they rely on me, so to speak, to create that moment. That's where, they're paying the big bucks for it. And, it's like thousands upon thousands of dollars. It's huge investment that they're putting into an event. One of my clients said to me, and I've had really great relationships with my clients over the years. And this was my last event, when I announced my retirement, I said, I'm done. This was a repeat client that I've had forever. And the husband said, well, you know what? You're going to go out with a bang. Let's do this big. So it was their last kid's bar mitzvah. And they trusted me, and they said, this is the theme, Alina, go for it. And I did. Give me the budget, went for it. Because, they've already, but speaking of patterns, they knew what they were coming into. I did this whole event. And then at the end, when we're just like standing there looking at, what was going on the dance floor, the mom comes up to me and says, she's having a great time, and says, I just threw a Range Rover off a cliff. I'm like, huh? And she's like, that's pretty much the cost of an event. And it's one night, an experience that you just go, whoop, she threw it off at her. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And I'm like, what do you think? She's like, oh, I'd do it again. That was the thing. It was the experience that, experience that day for her was worth the price of a Range Rover.
Well, and I think it's really about like, where is the value and where are you experiencing it? So we're up on our time here, so I'm going to come back in. I want to just bring in one reflection that's really interesting to me, is that you were talking, when we first started talking, you were explaining how you wanted to leave that corporate life because it wasn't feeding you, it wasn't nourishing you, right? There was that kind of routine, and looking at somebody else doing that, it was kind of like, whoa, I don't want to do that. You then went on this journey through this very emotional, very transitory landscape, right? And now you've shared that you really like the corporate events because it's not that. It's not that, but you're doing it your way, right? You're doing it still independently. And so I think a lot of times the thing that we push away, we then kind of go on this journey and figure out, we come back into it from a different perspective, from a different angle. And we can see that, okay, it wasn't that I wasn't supposed to be there. I just wasn't supposed to be there in this way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? It is an experience. The 15 years of doing it, I've learned so much. I've met amazing people. The event industry is such a tight-knit community. I have colleagues and friends that, when I say maybe I'll come back to it, they're like, come back. And I've had clients that turned into friends too.
Definitely.
You get your nightmare clients too. That's
why you're engaged in these huge experiences in someone's life. You become a part of that. Yeah. And they become a part of you.
That really, I loved that experience for myself, because that led me onto the next path in my life. And I'm doing it a different way now, and I'm loving it. Good. And I wouldn't give that experience away for anything. It was that, it was meant to be. And that experience led me to something else. All these experiences do. So, happy with that.
Good. I just wanted to kind of like outline that circle, because I think a lot of times people are thinking like, oh my gosh, like I needed to do this thing and I wanted to be in this place, I didn't want to be in that place, and they start judging that experience. But it's not that. It's that same knowing that you were talking about earlier of like, it's okay to know when it's time to leave. And maybe you come back into it in a very different way. But it's really when you're authentically tuning into your soul wisdom, your ways of knowing and being over and over, and you keep coming back into that space, then you know that your journey is aligned and you're able to find joy in that, no matter where you are in that process or in that relationship.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Beautiful conversation. I loved having you here today.
Thank you so much for having me. I am enjoying this.
Thank you. Thank you. I know we'll continue having a conversation, and I'm sure we'll collaborate more. If you're on here today, or if you're watching later in the on the replay, make sure to subscribe so you get notifications when we go live. And we'll make sure to drop in the links for where to find Alina and how to collaborate and find out more about all of the magic that she brings into the world. So thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Alina, for being here. And it's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thank you.